Tonight on History, So It Doesn't Repeat, we feature an interview and a movie with the comedy phenomenon known as JoyCamp, sharing their creative intellect and conscious comedy with all who could use a few laughs. We'll discover what makes truth so funny and how to conquer our own fears in the process. Learning's the answer. What's the question? It's all coming up on History, So It Doesn't Repeat.
Tonight, we only entertain the extraordinary, the genuine, and the remarkable. Because tonight will never happen again. Tonight we are kings. We toast to no one but ourselves. Tonight is the night to never forget, because we will never remember.
Welcome back to History, So It Doesn't Repeat. My name's Richard Grove, and tonight's episode will not only feature many humorous and comedic samples of the art created by our guest tonight, but we'll also be featuring a 20-minute short film at the end of tonight's interview, which helps to bring the whole episode together. Joining me via Skype is Ben Wills and Kevin Kostelnik, the public relations representatives for the comedy phenomenon known as JoyCamp. We're going to explore how to address taboo subjects in a public setting and use facts as a foundation for comedy, how to change the world for the better, one laugh at a time. I guess my first question is, who is JoyCamp and what does the name JoyCamp mean?
JoyCamp is primarily a group of 5 guys, the 2 of us.
Kevin's like, right, he's giving you positive affirmation.
I'm supporting what he's saying.
Thank you.
You're right. I'll let you know when you're wrong.
I'm Benny, this is Kevin, and Michael is our DP, and we have 2 other guys who are not present, named Nick and Andrew, or Delman, depending on how he introduces himself.
We call him Delman.
So let's now get down to the question, what does the name JoyCamp mean?
Well, JoyCamp comes from the book 1984, and in that book, Joy camps are forced labor camps. So we stumbled upon the word and thought it had a great ring to it, and the rest is history. It just fits so perfectly.
Yeah, it's cool actually. JoyCamp. It takes on a couple of meanings. You know, you have Joseph Atwill. If you're familiar with him and his work, he told us on a Skype call that JoyCamp to him is funny because in 1984 they get sent to this forced labor camp, which is called a Joy Camp, which sounds like a lot of fun. And with us, we're sending people into our Joy Camp, and it's having the reverse effect. They're having a good time, but they're also learning some of the truth in it. And also, we like to be campy from time to time.
Well, I mean, the visual of the balloon rising up, trying to attain freedom, and the barbed wire kind of popping it is very deep. And I wanted to comment on the 1984 reference. I mean, you guys brought up history, not me. You guys brought it up, so this is your fault. Are you guys familiar with a Russian novelist of the 1920s named Yevgeny Zamyatin, who wrote a book called We, which was the inspiration for 1984 and Brave New World, but it wasn't really publicized in America?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Never heard of him and didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right, right on. Now, wow. I feel like, we've done our due diligence to make this a history episode, and now...
Oh, gosh. Don't expose me.
No, we want to actually keep this as serious as possible.
Well, you could try, but I'm not going to be serious. I mean, I have serious questions, and you'll have serious answers, but I think there's going to be a lot of laughs in this episode because we're going to be playing clips of some of your brilliant compositions in the art of communication. How do you communicate these heavy topics? Not everyone wants to read 1984. But a couple of people start laughing at the videos, and then that seed's planted, And I think there needs to be a lot more laughter as we also do our homework and keep it factual. So building upon what you've spoken into existence thus far, what does JoyCamp do specifically? And how did you guys come about to start doing it?
Well, it's actually funny the way we started. He and I have been friends for about 10 years or something now.
Yeah, exactly 10 years.
Yeah, well, we met at a community college through a mutual friend of ours who's in a few of our videos. He's in our 2012 Cocaine Remix video, and he's in our silent film, The Mystic Treasure. He's a Puerto Rican guy. His name's Tony. He's a really dear friend of ours. And he lives in San Francisco. We all lived there together for a couple years. Tony stayed when Benny and I came back to Los Angeles. And Tony randomly sent us a video that he made called Conspiracy Cologne. It was like 30 seconds. He filmed it on a camera, or on a cell phone camera, and sent it to us, or posted it online, sent us a link, and we thought it was hysterical. So we both kind of joked and were like, let's do some type of conspiracy video and send it back to Tony. And I think we took a walk or something. We started talking about ideas, and we came up with the PSA, the Conspiracy Theorist PSA, which is the first video that we filmed together as JoyCamp. And that happened as a result of us having been making videos together for many years. We have them all still saved. We may release them over time on our channel just for sort of like a throwback. They're very funny, but they didn't really deal with truth. They were just slapsticky, silly stuff. So when Tony did this Conspiracy Cologne video and it inspired us to do this PSA, we sort of rounded up the troops. We got my brother Michael to film for us. We got a couple of other friends together, Nick and Delman, as he mentioned. And
Delman was not involved.
Delman wasn't with that one. He came a little later. But
yeah, don't give Delman credit for that one.
No, we don't let him give him any credit that he doesn't need.
Yeah. You hear that, Delman?
Or deserve.
You hear that? So we went out to the reservoir. We live here in Silver Lake in Los Angeles. And we went on the grass where we filmed our chemtrails video and many others, our internet one. And it was very organic. The whole thing was just a lot of fun. Everybody was having a good time. We were laughing. Nick took it home, edited it in like a day. And once we saw the first cut of it, we were like, this is more than just something that we're going to send to our friend Tony for fun. Like, we found something here, like something organic happened here. And it wasn't long after that we had a package of 5 videos, which was the plan, a YouTube channel, the name, which came a little later, the email address and all that stuff. And we just sort of unleashed it online all at once. And immediately thereafter, we started connecting with people as a result. A year later, I think we have 30 videos now.
I think
a little over a year later, we've got about 30 videos. So we've been very productive in the last year, I'd say.
I'd say you guys are pretty productive. I'm going to pull up a couple of my files here. I think the first video we saw of yours, Cameron Wiltshire had posted to Disinformation, and so the first encounter I had with you guys was seeing your video. Are you familiar with astrotheology?
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was hysterical because I had the context of Jan's work, and you guys just did an interview with Jan Irvin. So in the context of all that information, it's like that's a very complex subject, and you guys made it extremely funny. I mean, I can watch that video, every couple months and still get a fresh new laugh out of it because I'm picking up on something else that you laid in there.
So what's your story?
Wow, that's a really broad question. I don't know if I can answer that.
Okay. What books do you like to read?
Ooh, books. Wow, great question. All right. Okay, it's gonna sound a little corny, but lately I've been really into astrology and philosophy. Stanley P. Hall, Marcus Aurelius.
Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together. But do so with all your heart.
Oh my God! Yes. Wow. Are you familiar with astrotheology? Yes. The parent science of astronomy and astrology. Wow. I've never talked to anybody about this.
Me neither.
So it's all these layers that you guys create that help to make it funny. And I think it starts out with, becoming self-conscious and self-aware and going through some of these, questions on your own. And then you naturally through life having fun and doing these things that you kind of enjoy, you struck gold. Because, I've been looking for a comedic key. It's like, I know this information doesn't make me feel super happy every day. I'm happy because I'm finding out the truth, but I don't necessarily like how far the truth has gotten out of control out there while nobody was looking, right? So, it's a breath of fresh air to be able to take in these topics, to be able to share a short video with, friends, family, coworkers, whoever that might not be, into looking at these things. But once you plant that seed of there is something going on up there, maybe we disagree on what it is or why it's there or whatever, but it hasn't always been there. And too many people are looking at their smart devices. And if they're going to look at their smart devices, why not kind of, not booby trap, but why not plant some healthy media out there so that every now and then somebody comes across something that changes their habits for the better, right? So you guys pretty much covered the 5 W's plus how of who is JoyCamp and where do you guys where do you guys create your videos and so on and so forth. So I want to talk about a couple of these videos, but first let's talk about how we came into contact after Cameron posted that video and alerted me. I got an email back on August 2nd of 2012 from Benny. Do you remember this, Benny? Yeah. I recognized it because I was like, wow, I used to send out emails like this. Well, I mean, I still do, but I remember, reaching out into the unknown, trying to introduce your work, saying, hey, I'm doing something of value. You might think it's funny. And, so I was like, oh, I already clicked the link that Cameron had sent. I was all on board. And I think we sent you guys some videos. And ever since then, I've enjoyed your entire catalog of videos. I think the one that I found, I don't know, impressive, like, artistic, cinematic, being able to copy what they put out there type of format is the Belvedere commercial, which is probably, it's a message of this is socially acceptable to just go out and drink your face off, right? And you guys could be making videos for an advertising agency. I mean, you definitely showed the skills of being able to write the copy, to film it, to communicate an idea, and to make it so close. Like, I'm going to put that at the beginning of this episode, right after the intro. And I bet a bunch of people stop watching because they think there's an ad in the show. But really, if they watch it, they'll get a laugh and then they'll get what this episode's all about, right?
Hilarious. That's brilliant.
Or they want to drink vodka. I mean,
that video was one of the most fun that we've had filming. It was just ridiculous. We have a lot of really great B-roll and like bonus footage to that video of us barfing. What was it? Vegetable soup?
Mushroom soup.
Mushroom soup.
Yeah. From 99-cent store.
And we literally just copied a vodka commercial that we saw, and we were like, nobody does that when they're drinking alcohol. Nobody's that cool when they're drinking. Come on. And we just had so much fun mocking that.
Yeah, we showed what would really happen if everyone was just sitting around drinking straight vodka all night long.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go home with a smile on your face and singing a song.
Funny about that commercial too is the guy who came up with the actual
Kettle One.
It was actually for Kettle One. The reason we did it was Belvedere vodka is because it was the only vodka bottle that we had that was just ridiculously obscene, like this big. And but we were mocking a Kettle One spot, and the guy that created that ad on Kettle One actually had contacted us, let us know that he saw it. He commented on the video first, and then emailed us and said that he thought it was hilarious. So kind of cool to get that from him, actually.
But I'm actually really flattered that you brought that video up. We've actually never talked about that video in any interview or anything, because it doesn't really deal with. It deals with a truth of a certain sort, but not of the the bigger truth, the deeper truths.
See, I do my homework. I did the digging. That is the gold that nobody's talked about thus far. And I think it's a real gem. It's not a truth video per se, but it is a statement, and it is brilliantly communicated in that format. I mean,
it's one of our favorites.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? The thing that's so great about videos like that, and we have a couple others like it too, that aren't so on the head with conspiracies, is that one I find myself recommending when I am communicating and talking with people that I know aren't into this stuff. I know they don't know their history, they don't know their research. They don't know anything beyond their television set and their whatever program it is that they're watching. And so when I hang out with those kind of people and they say, oh, you have a YouTube channel, cool, yeah, it's comedy videos. Well, what do you do? I was like, well, we dabble in this and that. Check out our Belvedere commercial. And hopefully that'll reel them in to see the chemtrail one and the Monsanto one and some of the others. And so it's a way of easing people into what it is we're really doing.
And the tennis sketch is also really good for that. Above the influence. I find that most people who are not, like you said, I don't like the word conspiracy, but people who aren't in the alternative, on the alternative side of the equation, they love that video. That's the first one they always comment on when they talk to me. The tennis, above the influence.
Above the influence, and you get high. It's an anti-drug mockery. So, it's those things that are almost counterfeits of things that people readily consume without thinking already. That seems to be the key that starts, wait a minute, why is that funny? Why did I just laugh at that? What does hemp or marijuana or cannabis have to do with that situation? And, who would take the time and money to make a commercial on that, let alone who would take the time and money to mock a commercial like that?
Right.
Right.
We would.
I want to talk about a few of your other productions. I'm going to go in most recently published and work back in time a little bit. My first question about this next video is it's the Operation Paul Revere submission that you guys did. It's a brilliant 20-minute short film that's comprised of it's like fractal. It contains smaller bits of truth within it. Do I have your permission to play that at the end of this interview and include it in this episode?
Please.
Absolutely.
The video needs some more love, so we any views we can get for that.
Yeah, play it twice if you want, actually.
Yeah.
Or just scrap the interview and play that video.
All right, so let's talk about this information, this information that you guys put together for the Operation Paul Revere contest, the InfoWars contest. When did you guys conceive of the idea? How long did it take you? And how much fun did you have creating that?
Well, we had a lot of fun creating it, but we first thought we would just send in a few separate videos and have multiple submissions. Right. And then as I was actually taking a walk and thinking about the different ideas we had for the individual separate submissions, and thought, man, there's a better way to do this. If we could find a through line, we could connect these together and create a piece that incorporates all of them. So we came up with this idea, a very loose way to connect the videos all the way through. And then we just made it our goal to accomplish it. And we covered, I think, 7 or 8. How many videos did we have?
It was 8 maybe total with the intro and stuff. We actually took a trip to San Francisco. We rode the bus up there for a weekend to spend a weekend with Tony to just shoot around ideas. And that's where we came up with some of the ideas that are in the actual video. And like he said, later we decided to put it all together. We really wanted to have a 20-minute sketch comedy show. It was unlike any sketch comedy show that exists out there, where it actually talks about real, true things. If George Carlin had a sketch show or something.
And we have an idea board with all kinds of ideas and also issues that we want to tackle. And the ones that are in the video are pretty much at the top of the list. Because we really love the movie The Green Beautiful. If anyone hasn't seen that, I totally recommend it. It's a French film that was banned, ironically enough, but it's a beautiful film.
I know.
So we wanted to honor that film in some way. We wanted to definitely stick it to the cops and do some kind of some kind of video of getting out of a situation with the cop, getting out of a speeding ticket or expired registration or DUI checkpoint. And the RFID chip was begging for it. And
Cameron actually sent us that commercial.
It kind of just lit the fire under our asses. Can I say that? Under our butts. And we just got it together and put them all together into one piece.
Well, I mean, I really enjoyed watching it because, I had no idea. I saw it come out and I had no idea what I was about to watch. I'm like, wow, there's 20 minutes all in one chunk. This is going to be really good. And, you start out with petroleum and slavery and I'm like, all right, this is clever. And then it's you guys after Burning Man in the desert smashing up a TV or something. And that was filmed very well. Like that, the slow motion footage, I can dig the whole way that was filmed. And then you get into all these different skits, including how to use intellectual self-defense against cops. And so just getting people thinking about the fact that, there's a dude in a costume and he's stopping you with the threat of deadly force, right? And so you have a couple questions because you do have a voluntary role in your servitude. And again and again, every couple weeks when I click on one of your videos, it's like, here's another way to start thinking your way out of the involuntary servitude that we've all been conditioned into.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. And I think the drones video was the first one that we filmed for that contest, or for that project.
Actually, we did Princess.
Princess and drones, I think, were the first two. And the drones one was just, was a lot of fun. And the Princess one, that was, as you know, a continuation of the previous one, Princess Intervention, the part 1.
Listen, we need to talk. I'm worried about you. I feel like I'm losing you to a fantasy. This little dream of yours, it's becoming an obsession. And I have to tell you, you are setting yourself up for complete and total disappointment. Years of therapy, romantic indifference, inferiority complex, laziness. The truth is the truth, and you're going to find out one way or another. It may as well be from me. You are not a princess. You're never going to be a princess. You actually have like a 0% chance of becoming a princess, especially in this country.
Princesses are really nice, though.
I'm not saying they're not nice. They're nice, they're kind, they're beautiful. They talk to animals.
The princess don't talk to serpents.
Well, in Cinderella, she talks to mice.
Nobody does that.
Have you ever fallen asleep for like 20 years at a time?
No.
Do you want to hang out with dwarves?
Mm-mm.
Exactly my point.
Well, I like princesses. You're stupid.
I am not stupid. I'm not.
You're a stupid ass.
I mean, like, how many princesses are there?
A lot.
How many do you know?
I know all of them.
You know all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Where are they?
They're at Disney.
Walt Disney was a Nazi.
The little girl in that is Rebecca. That's my niece and my brother Michael's niece, who does our camera.
Those videos are priceless just because of, we should be truthful with children, and we shouldn't send them out into the world without them knowing how to tell fact from fiction, reality from unreality. And so it's just the irony is, why is it funny? It's funny because these conversations should take place, and they don't until you pass around that video, and then everyone just has to laugh at it because, everybody's, buying into that culture, and it's readily being purveyed and made available. You don't have to go to some obscure place on the internet to get some of those costumes for your kids, I'm sure. They're everywhere, and they're becoming ubiquitous, and it's teaching young boys how to be soldiers and young women how to be princesses. And, Paddy Chayefsky in his filmmaking had a lot of commentary on that whole situation. The Americanization of Emily is the film I'm talking about. Are you guys fans of Paddy Chayefsky?
Have you seen anything? No?
All right, cool. Chayefsky did Network.
Yeah.
Network's one of my favorite movies of all time.
He did Hospital. He did Altered States.
I love Network.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, well.
Yeah, Network is fantastic.
Yeah, I was blown away by Network when I saw it, maybe about 5 years ago. And I was shocked that I had never seen it before the time I'd seen it. And then I looked up. I was so blown away by that film that I was like, what could have possibly beaten this movie at the Oscars? And I saw that it was Rocky. And I was like, Rocky? And I'd never seen Rocky either, so I went back and watched Rocky. And I liked Rocky.
Rocky's a good movie. Rocky's a good movie.
I said they were pretty good in different ways.
It's a great movie.
But Network is.
But it's not as good as Network.
All right, so... so what I'm saying is Chayefsky has a couple other films that aren't as popular, but if you look up his IMDb, you'll see that he's making statements through media that no one else at the time really had the guts to kind of put out there, and he had a shorter career than maybe he should have, maybe because of that. But it's interesting because it's another contrast. It's because his movies are funny in a darker, more, it's not even so much satire. It's almost like, here's stuff people need to know, and it's going to be a dark movie about the medical system and how people just die in the hospital because of bureaucracy and stuff like this, right? But it's got George C. Scott, and it's got some funny moments, and he's able to craft these dark elements of reality in our society that are there out and put them out there for discussion and to provoke thought and to get people to act differently, to change their thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors back to something that's not in conflict with our needs for survival, because that's how they brainwash people. It's changing thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors away from what you need. And if there's a touchstone that's found in almost every video on this list, it's that, hey, keep it real. We're human beings. We have certain needs. We have this all in common. And we do have predators. We have people who want to plunder or destroy our production, who kind of like live off of us and poison our minds with ideas so we can be easily controlled. And so, working up through this list of, I'm back at February of 2013. One of your most popular videos was the Oscars Best Propaganda Film Video. It has like 81,000 views as of the time that we made these notes.
From Reaver Madness
To an Inconvenient Truth.
to Contagion.
This year's nominees for Best Propaganda in a Motion Picture are Argo, a sweeping romance between Hollywood and the CIA. These lovebirds may not get the glory, but rest assured, they got your back.
The Avengers, a film about an invincible government superhero team that can go anywhere and only kills bad guys.
Lincoln, the same guy who said, I, as much as any man, am in favor of the superior position assigned to the white race. You tell him, Abe.
Torture Works, according to Zero Dark 30, a film that shows how waterboarding and other torture techniques help the CIA find and kill Osama bin Laden.
Hunger Games, a rich and powerful elite, an exploited and dumbed-down population, high-tech surveillance, a manipulative mass media, and a whole lot of blood rituals. Rated PG-13.
They're all winners in my book, Benny.
I don't read books, Kevin. Oh. And the winner is... They did it again. Zero Dark 30! Get up here, Catherine Bigelow.
Catherine Bigelow will be accepting the award on behalf of the CIA.
This really is, there's no other way to describe it. It's the moment of a lifetime. I would not be standing here if it wasn't for Mark Bowl, who risked his life for the words on the page and wrote such a courageous screenplay that I was fortunate enough to have an extraordinary cast bring that screenplay to life. And I'd just like to dedicate this to the women and men in the military who risk their lives on a daily basis.
How did you guys come to make that video? I have to tell you, that was also very well shot. And, I'm sure many people watched it for several seconds before they even sniffed that it was a spoof.
True. Yeah, that's true. In fact, if you searched Oscar 2013 during that week that we had it uploaded, it would be the top result. And I think it stayed there for a while, too. Mm-hmm. In fact, what it did was right after the Oscars, you got a lot of people that just watched it and they want to go online and look things up. They're YouTubing and Googling Oscars 2013, and they're getting ours on the first page. So we had sort of this influx of comments from people who...
Negative comments.
Yeah, from people who aren't necessarily in our fan base, let's say.
One of the comments said, you two should be hung in public. Hung in public. So you two should be hung in public. One of my favorite comments so far.
That's been one of the best comments. So we subscribed to his channel.
Yeah, someone who didn't want to think or laugh. I mean, what can you do? You can't please everybody.
But we came up with the idea because, there's a lot of propaganda in films.
We were on the way to Jan's house.
Right, but there's a lot of propaganda in films. And last year, 2012, it was just blatant. And the movies that were getting the most attention were such obvious propaganda films. Argo and Zero Dark 30, the top of the list.
What?
And we we were actually on our way to Jan's house for our first meeting with him, and we started just ranting about it and joking about it. And then we came up with this idea, and figured out. We had like a list of 10 movies that we could possibly come up with like a short description of to say they were propaganda, and settled on the 5 that are in it, and then just had fun. And when we kind of had a script, but then when we were in front of the camera as the presenters, we
just kind of
took some liberties and had fun, and then edited it very cleverly, and it's one of our best.
Yeah, we filmed it like right there.
With a green screen behind us.
Yeah, that my mom bought us for $30 from Joanne Fabrics. But it works. And it was one, when I was editing that one, I think Benny was working on some of the lines for how we described the movies. And so he was sitting on the couch, and I was sitting pretty much right where I'm at right now. And I'm working on the green screen stuff. And I knew that as I was wrapping it up, and when we did the final voiceovers and putting it together, I knew it. It was just, I had that feeling with that video. It's happened a couple of times with a few of the videos. That one I knew when I wrapped up, I was like, man, we struck a chord in this one here. And the response that we got was obviously great because it got so many views so quickly. It was timed really well. That's very important in this world. And if we weren't obligated to survive in the system and do the things we have to do to survive in the system, we would be doing this full time and putting out a lot more videos that are very current, but we have to sort of pick and choose our battles. That one, we just felt like we struck gold with that one, though. And luckily, it got such a great response. And what people seem to really like from it, especially people that are just as frustrated about the system that we all are and want to change it for the better, is that it was very ballsy. And it really, our friend Liam told us that everybody sort of growing up kind of dreams about reading an Oscar speech. And if people like us get older, you learn about it. You might not want to do that. A lot of people still do, and we just sort of put ourselves in that situation. Like, we didn't care. We just kind of put ourselves in it, and we did it. And we learned from that, at least I learned from that it's good to be controversial, I think, because a lot of people are going to see your videos that way, and you can hopefully get a lot of truth out that way too. So it was great. It was a great experience, that video.
Well, let's talk about something equally ballsy or gutsy or, courageous, and something else that you probably did from home. This Bilderberg All-Stars video. Bilderberg's coming up next week. They're meeting in England, so this is apropos to timing of the publication of this.
Bend over and grab your ankles for the 2012 Bilderberg All-Star Awards, featuring Bill Gates, Steven Spielberg, Prince Charles, Colin Powell, Hillary Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Rick Perry, Margaret Thatcher, Tony Blair, Harley Rose, David Rockefeller, Ben Bernanke, Timothy Geithner, Paul Wolfowitz, and many more. Who will win? Biggest donor, best human disguise, and most lifetime kills. It's the biggest secret meeting of the year.
Here comes the criminal.
Whoop, there goes Joseph Ackerman of Deutsche Bank.
The whole world is watching.
With musical performances by Jay-Z, Rihanna, Bill Clinton, Bono, and John Ashcroft.
Let the eagle soar.
Stop by early for live red carpet coverage with We Are Change hottie Luke Rudkowski.
Banksters, corporate heads, media moguls, heads of state, kings and queens.
RT heartthrob Abby Martin. And your host, Alex Jones.
We are revealing you as the puppet masters. You will be defeated.
The 2012 Bilderberg All-Star Awards, where your fate is determined. Friday, December 21st, only on Fox. Presented by MK Ultra. Live life to the ultra.
I think that your video will get a lot more hits next week, especially I'll tweet it out there, and I think people will, get a kick out of it because, let's talk about what inspired that video.
Okay, well, similar to the Oscars, it was a timing thing. The Bilderberg meeting was coming up, and we wanted to do something about it. So the first idea we had was have a correspondent outside and have someone on the inside, like a mole, like someone who had snuck in reporting, and every time they'd show the footage that they were getting from inside, it was just like lizards in a cage or walking around. Yeah, some kind of reptile walking around. We thought that was a really funny image. But we couldn't find good live footage of lizards.
You need Slee Stacks from Land of the Lost.
We did use Land of the Lost as a picture in a bit of video. But then I don't know. I don't really remember how we made the jump to the idea that we came up with. But we were just we kept messing around and joking. We always know we're in our best ideas when we're laughing about them, when we're talking about them. So we came up with that award show, and we kept using photos of lizards to represent the attendees.
We had a lot of their real pictures, and we kept replacing them with like reptiles or like the dog taking a dump or whatever else we could find that was really funny.
And then we basically we found a advertisement for I think it was a Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. That's right. Commercial.
That's right.
And it was just so upbeat and so positive, and it was so quick, and they put so much information out there so quickly. We just used that as our rubric, and just kind of copied what they did and changed it to Bilderberg.
And it has the by MK Ultra or sponsored by MK Ultra or whatever, which is one of my favorite little jokes. We're going to reuse that one at some point down the road.
MK Ultra beer.
They should actually, you could make them an implicit comedic sponsor, and because you had the Sia app. The app by Sia.
Yeah, Sia is our company. Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming back. Well, you'll see that again. Yeah, it's a lot of the reptile stuff. I mean, we're not saying that we believe it. It's just, come on, it's so fun to joke about.
That's what we do. We have fun with conspiracies. I mean, we don't. Yes, you can get truth, and you can get truth from our videos, but we don't necessarily say we endorse everything we bring up in the video. So if that's kind of where JoyCamp came from. We noticed that there was a lack of lightheartedness in dealing with truth. People get so serious, and we thought that humor was just a great way to bridge the gap, and it was like a place for people to let off some steam and relax a little bit and say that, hey, look, it is messed up, and we are being really, really screwed with, but it can also be absurd and funny. And here's a way to let that out. So like the whole reptilian thing is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying it's true, but it's ridiculous, and we can poke fun at it while we are calling attention to the Bilderberg meeting.
Exactly, yeah, and people, it will plant seeds. We showed a lot of that video to a lot of people that have no idea what the Bilderberg is, but then they see this, and even though we're being silly with the reptiles and all that, they might later go and Google it to see, and for us, that's a job well done, because we planted that seed, and we did it while also making them laugh simultaneously.
And in a very short amount of time. That video, I think, is less than a minute long.
Short.
And I think a lot of people lose focus when they're trying to learn information that contradicts information they already know, because it's so much to take in, and it takes them so long. It's such an investment, and we live in the short attention span era. So we're taking on issues, making them lighthearted, and delivering it to you in 3 minutes or less to make it accessible. So people will actually want to tune in and from start to finish.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Well, I mean, the way I see it, you guys find taboo subjects that people should be talking about, and it's taboo subjects with a smile, because you're laughing at the irony. You're laughing because you get something implicitly. That's how you get the joke, and then you scratch your head and you're like, wait a minute, why is it funny? And that's what spurs people into doing a search, or the other idea is that before people take something as a signal or they understand the word, it's on their radar several times. So even though, you talk about Bilderberg and it's not history, you're pointing to actual things in existence that are going on. And people might not take that as credible or anything, but it's on their radar. And the next time they see a tweet or a news story about Bilderberg, then they're more likely to be like, wait a minute, I've heard of that before. It's not the first time, and then the next time they might actually know what it means and what it means, in life.
And if they are familiar with Bilderberg, or if they at least heard the name and they watch our video, we show that Steven Spielberg went, and Charlie Rose, and these people that you wouldn't expect, and they're like, wait a second, I got to look up this. I got to look this up for myself, and then they can learn from that and say, wow, this really is something strange that these powerful people are all attending in secret.
Well, and I would say that most of the people that attend Bilderberg, they're worker bees. They're not the people that are like in control the system. They still have to go to work every day. Yes, they live a lush life, and they have all this imaginary money that's made out of nothing. Right?
It's like they're getting their assignment for the year.
Yeah, and they're good at plundering. They can plunder to a plan and predict when they're going to plunder by and deliver, those deliverables, because it's all just, gangsterism with fancier words wrapped around it, called law. But Let's go to another fascinating word. I'm going to use the F word right now, but I'm not going to actually say the F word until after the premiere of your Operation Paul Revere submission. We'll include the F word video at the end and keep it clean right now. But that was by far one of my favorite videos, just because of the creativity, how you guys presented it. You guys did make that video, right?
We did. That was actually a precursor to JoyCamp. Yeah. We and along our journey and figuring out how to do what we do, we had teamed up with some other people here in LA and started a little production company, and that was the first video we produced for that. And but that said, it was completely our idea, and they went along with it and helped us film it. But that
was our idea.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wrote up all the storyboards. I created a scene to go along with the voiceover, so it was ours. But it didn't really get much love when it was first distributed. I think a year before JoyCamp was created. That when we created JoyCamp, I asked the permission of all the guys who were involved if we could, give it a second life with JoyCamp, and they of course were okay with it. So, yeah, that was like the little prequel to JoyCamp, and one of my favorites.
Damn straight they're okay with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn straight. Roll the video. You're playing at the end. Never mind.
So now I want to test your talent. You guys have demonstrated an immense talent. I want to see where you guys are at in your process. How could you make something like, I want to talk about recent scandals. So how could we make something like Benghazi funny?
Benghazi,
I would have to research it more before I could.
Me too. I've been doing my grammar on it, but I don't feel like I'm educated enough on that to know how to make that one funny yet.
All right.
Not that it couldn't be done, but
give us something else.
Yeah, that would be one that isn't on the top of our list right now, even though it probably should be.
All right, so maybe it's too soon. Timing is a big part of comedy. So let's go to something that happened in the past couple years. Fast and Furious with Attorney General Eric Holder selling guns that come back to kill people in America.
Have we had gun ones? Did we have gun ideas?
No, we want to do something with gun control and with guns. But no.
Again, that's lower on our list. So clearly our talent is failing you, Rich.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even so much about instantaneous responses as, how do we start to, for instance, mimic The Daily Show? The Daily Show covers content, albeit from a skewed perspective and everything. So how can we get back to objective reality, sharing the facts with people and working in a little comedy? I'm just trying to, figure out the future, because, there is a future in comedy.
Right. Something with guns, we should do something about guns at some point, gun control, and it's fun. I never actually thought I would be at a place in my life where I was a supporter of guns. I was brought up really against firearms, and I still am, I guess, in theory. But as far as the disarming of the population, I'm very much against, and I never thought I'd be there. And I think that with a video for us, I saw some statistic once about how you're more likely to get killed with a hammer than you are with an assault rifle. I think there's a joke in there somewhere about showing how more likely you are to die by obscure situations or something else other than a gun.
Well, we did try to do that once with the Piers Morgan.
Oh, right.
So we did actually. We have a video. There's never released it.
Yeah, there's a lost JoyCamp video that's never been produced, and it's an interview between Piers Morgan and the conspiracy guy. And we made it right after Sandy Hook, and it's just it didn't flow the way that we wanted it to. We're still figuring out a way to get it up there, but it was all about gun control.
Yeah, more or less. The timing sort of fell out, and it just was one of those things. It was a great idea, but we didn't fully.
So there you go. That's how you do it. You take a Piers Morgan interview,
yeah.
You insert yourself in there,
and you have a conversation with Piers Morgan about guns.
Well, it reminds me of that clip that the Yes Men did, where they went on as representatives of Union Carbide and DuPont, and they said, we're really sorry about what happened in Bhopal, India, and we're gonna give all these people this money, and BBC carried it because it was an elaborate theatrical skit that brought a lot of people to awareness to the attention of what happened back in the 80s. Because I know when we saw that, Lisa it's like, well, let's look that up and see what the details were, because we vaguely remembered it because we were kids when that happened back in the 80s. So, it's about reaching out to the population in these different ways to, just start to think about this. And I didn't expect you guys to have funny answers to unfunny events that, you could probably only laugh at later when we fixed some of the stuff, because right now it's just like, another scandal. And, there's an IRS scandal. Well, what about the scandal of the individual having to pay taxes in the first place under threat of deadly force or being put in a cage, right? Like there's something to be said there too. So it's all about, how do we process these ideas, and how do we keep our mental balance, and even develop some agility. There's a couple scenes in some of your videos where there's some real agility being demonstrated. Where did you guys get the idea for that?
The agility?
Dude standing on his hand, standing on his head.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's a guy that we know here in LA who's on the same wavelength as us, who's very open-minded. Yep. And we met him, and we hang out with him, we talk about real issues, which is rare in Los Angeles, unfortunately. But he's one of those people who's open-minded and on board with everything. And so we were coming up with ideas for our segues in our long video, and thought of him and thought he'd be perfect for this, the cutaways.
Yeah, his name's Lamont. He's a great guy, very smart.
He's an amazing contortionist dancer.
And I think he was coincidentally wearing a shirt of a pyramid. It was an upside-down pyramid, so when he was upside down, it was a right-side-up pyramid, I think, which we thought was kind of funny.
Shouldn't say that, though, because people will start thinking that we're part of the Illuminati.
That's true, yeah. Controlled opposition.
Would you like to make a statement for the record for anyone who might confuse the antics and hijinks that went on in your Gnostic Media interview?
Yes, we are only in it for the money.
Right. We're a plant. The CIA gives us money to make YouTube videos. We're controlled opposition.
When someone first mentions that, I mean, it is, it comes out of left field, because it's like, from your position or my position, it's like, we're just people, we're individuals in our house doing a lot with very little. And it's, filmmaking is making a lie to tell the truth. Well, so is, setting everything up, because, if you looked at the ceiling or looked at the floor in the studio, you might not think it looks so professional. But from this camera angle, things look great, And so it's all about, what steps do we have to go through to communicate with people? And then, not everyone's going to agree with your creativity or your stage. They're not always going to be happy with how far you've gotten or what you're expressing or whatever. And you just kind of have to, recognize that, but just put it down and keep moving, because otherwise you're going to stunt your own creativity and your own inspiration and your own progress, because the progress, is really making a series of mistakes. And how fast can you fall down and get up from these mistakes and keep learning? I'm curious to know what's on your creativity board over there. What are the upcoming things that you'd like to sketch out?
Well, first thing we're going to do is break up the 20-minute video and release some of them, not all of them, as individual videos to gain traction and to bring more attention back to the original 20-minute video. But we think that as on their own, some of those sketches really are very strong, and I think that they could garner us more subscribers and more views. And we also think that more people should see them. Like the DUI checkpoint scene could be, I think that could really has the potential, similar to the Oscar video, to go big, to get a lot of people watching. And I think that kind of information is really important for people to understand. We don't have to bend over for cops all the time, especially when it's unlawful at its core. But other than that, we really want to take on false flags in some way, like the term false flag, like a false flag football game, or capture the false flag, something like that. But also this crisis actor idea, that's really big. Like,
let's not give too much away.
We don't want to give much away, but that's an issue that because that's an issue that's been dividing people so much. I mean, after the Boston Marathon, and especially after Sandy Hook, this idea of actors being put in place, and some pretty compelling evidence to suggest that, but no way to prove it. Right. And we have an idea that we think is really strong, that centers around the idea of a crisis actor that we think could,
do some good.
Yeah, show some people what people are willing to do in order to get attention and money. But that's all I'm going to say. I probably said too much already.
Yeah, and we have a few others too, some smaller ideas. That's kind of one of our bigger ones. But the great thing, great and not so great thing about what we're doing is that there's an endless supply of things to write about. I mean, every day there's something new.
And I think the Angelina Jolie double mastectomy is begging to be made fun of in some way. Some kind of cancer scare with like a guy who, gets his balls chopped off and replaced with silicone implants because he might get testicular cancer at some point later in his life.
Yeah.
Something in there.
He should just be reduced.
Comedy gold in that right there. Somewhere in there. But yeah.
It should end up with just like a stub and then a head.
Right, a guy who just
keep cutting stuff off.
Right, all the different parts of his body. There we go. There's our video.
There's the video.
Don't steal it. Yeah. Not you, but the viewers. Plus many more.
Yeah, there's so many subjects that we want to tackle. I mean, there's so many, and it really is. I think what happens is when we get really worked up about a particular subject, that's that's sort of like the kick in the ass to like, all right, let's get the camera and let's do it.
Right.
When we're on Facebook or something and we see like the majority of our friends are posting and writing about how just absolutely insane it shows the world is, like this Angelina Jolie thing that happened recently, and you can almost pick anything and just look on Facebook and see what people are saying about it, and it'll drive you nuts if you're not friends with like-minded people, right? So when issues like that start to really fester around in this apartment here, that's when we start shooting around ideas, and eventually one of those will morph into a video at some point. That's kind of the process.
And we have some other ones actually that we've already filmed, we've never released, and also some scripts for other videos that we've yet to produce that I'll keep secret.
So basically, we have no plan of stopping anytime soon.
Well, let's talk about that.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, we have, we want to go mainstream. We want this to be seen by the masses. We want to be more than just a YouTube channel. So since we're in Los Angeles, and since it is becoming less taboo to talk about these issues on television, even if we get the label of being conspiracy comedy, I mean, I wouldn't mind if it spreads our audience and gets more people to watch what we're doing. That's the goal. I mean, we're not trying to be the kings of YouTube. We're trying to, we're trying to use whatever platform available, whatever resources we have to get these videos out there and to get people to watch them. So we'd love to go mainstream. We'd love to get someone to sponsor us.
That's
for the money.
It's not in it for the money, but we're in it for the spread. I mean, you can only, we're scratching the surface right now, but our audience has basically been people who are like-minded so far, and we want to break those boundaries. We do a little bit, but we really want to break them. And we think that this comedic approach, is the way to do it.
And in your interview with G. Edward Griffin, he mentioned something early on in the interview how he felt this sense of urgency of where he was like, okay, Rich, you've been going at it all day long, but there's still a couple more hours in the day left. And we feel that same urgency. I mean, you got to find your balance, and you got to find the place that makes you calm. Otherwise, you'll go crazy. But if you do that for too long, then you start missing out on this stuff. So you find the balance, but we feel this sense of urgency where when we do this, we realize that it can reach those people that we've spent so many nights calling sheep and you're idiots and, wake up and pay attention. And while maybe it's okay to let off some steam and do that, we really do need these people. And I've learned, it's amazing, Rich, like, this, if you apply yourself, how much you actually learn. So a year ago when we started making these videos, what I've learned since then, the biggest lesson is the power of humor and the power of comedy. It's really the biggest lesson that I've taken from all this, how when you tell someone a joke, comedy is the universal language, right? Like, who doesn't like to laugh? So when you tell someone a joke, it just completely brings down all their defenses. All their conditioning, you say the word conspiracy, they say the word theory, it tears it down.
Their emotional defense.
And then you get into them and they become sort of your friend. They like you immediately. They're laughing. And that's when you can throw in a little seed of truth. And that's why our videos are so effective. So,
and also the videos, I mean, over the years, I mean, I guess it was 9/11 was what pretty much sealed the deal for me waking up. And I was actually a senior in high school when that happened. And then when Loose Change and all those other movies came out, I was still really young. And I was getting in so many fights with people where I was literally yelling and like debating and
Right.
getting in screaming arguments with people and being really frustrated. And I had to learn over the years how to harness that. And my best way of introducing information to people was to let them feel like they were learning it on their own, and just suggesting something casually without an emotional response or from an emotional place, and just opening a door so that it'll hopefully plant a seed that they want to investigate on their own. And then they come back to me and they're like, oh my God, I looked up chemtrails. So instead of me arguing with them, they went out and did the research and then came back. And the same thing with our videos. So like you were saying, we bring up an issue in a comedic way. We're like, oh, that was really funny. Man, I'm going to go look up Bilderberg now. Right. And then they can come back and be like, oh shit, I looked up Bilderberg.
Trying to disprove you. I mean, that's the thing. What you guys create is thought-provoking, and it's not about, do I agree with you? Or, as an audience member who's not me, do they agree with you? Do they not agree with you? If they watch it, if they laughed, if you've provoked some thought, you've done your job. And it's a difficult job to do. You guys do it with somewhat grace and eloquence, and in this grace and elegance that you're using, you can still see you guys are learning and progressing and evolving and coming to understand, because one of the things that I wrote down was it's your constructive use of time. It's the taking of your creativity and your imagination, actually getting up off the couch and starting an action that leads to a productive result, which is a component that other people can pass around, so you don't have to have that conversation over and over and over again. You've created a solid component that gives you a couple laughs and some information in a short period of time. People can pass it around, and you don't have to address it over and over again, right? And so right. I want to target in, because what I see is growing self-confidence, self-reliance, and self-esteem. And so I want to talk about, as you guys liberate yourself from the public education system, how has that public, how has your public demonstration of the results of self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-reliance, that is what your work is to the public. So could you guys talk a little bit about outgrowing the status quo?
It gets better all the time, I think. I mean, it's not that there aren't hard days, because when you make that leap and you realize, wow, everything that I've been taught in my entire life is a complete lie, it's a hard thing for a lot of people to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow. But when you do it, you sort of go through a tornado and you get spit out on the other end. And then it becomes a quest where you're just traveling down that rabbit hole. And for me, I just can't help but learn new things all the time. And I feel like the more things that I learn, the better of a person I become all around in every aspect of life. I've had people tell me that I'm the most balanced person they've ever met. And I want to say back to them, that's a direct result of the things that I've learned about in this life, because I really do feel like as a soul on this earth, you have a responsibility to learn about who you are and where you come from and what the hell you're doing here. So for me personally, my life has just gotten nothing but better in every aspect of it, completely.
Well, yes, me too. Ditto. But also, I work with kids, and this endeavor, I don't know if this is going to answer your question directly, but this JoyCamp endeavor has bridged the gap not only with people who are, emotionally reluctant to handle truth, but also with children who are directly behind us, the generation right behind us. And I can give them my YouTube channel card and say, watch my videos, and they're only 13 years old, and they will get it. And I think that's also really important. That's something that's come out of it. And as far as education goes, I mean, on the interview on Gnostic Media, I made a joke about how I was a really bad high school student and I got bad grades, and that's true. But I also went on to college where I got straight A's, and I went on to graduate school where I got straight A's, and I have 2 degrees now. And looking back on it, I mean, during that process, it felt like the most important thing in the world to get those degrees and to achieve that. And looking back on it, and again, I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, if you're listening, but I see how, I don't want to say useless, but pointless or unnecessary, that's the right word, unnecessary all that schooling was, because it didn't prepare me for life. And it made me a better actor, I guess, for my craft. But it's not helping me, didn't help my education as a human being. And I don't think it's necessary for people to go through that system like I did anymore. I don't think that people need college to be educated.
Yeah. I went to school. You got made fun of if you were smart in school, which looking back on it now, like getting straight A's in high school or whatever wouldn't have meant a difference about anything. But learning should be cool. and I feel like I grew up in a society that was taught otherwise. Like if you asked a question, you were all of a sudden weird, or it was like, just shut up and go along, with the program. So learning, and hopefully our videos will have this effect that learning these things can be cool. And if you are learned, that you are cool. So that's another sort of aspect that hopefully we can bring into the picture here.
Well, I don't think you can make it funny until you understand it well enough to, surpass the victim mentality, the fear. And that's also the same thing when you're trying to communicate with other people. When you're just learning about this stuff and you haven't gone from fear into knowledge through a process of methodically addressing this information to make sure there's no contradictions. When you're in that process, it's not the best time to communicate with people because you're trying to give a conclusion before you've even done your homework and remove the contradictions, right? So this learning should be cool. We should revere people who do their homework and are sources with integrity. But our culture is skewed way far away from that. And we could talk about that we could even make that a note for a future show. But what I want to talk about is this. I want to tune into this extended adolescence and people, falling down the rabbit hole and not knowing how to find the exit. What's the point? How do you get to knowledge? How do you actually find certainty so that you can have the self-reliance and self-confidence and self-esteem to be funny? And so I think that you guys have made that whole journey, that hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell would call it. We're all reluctant taking this journey, but at some point you got to learn a lesson that life's laying down. So I want to ask you guys, how did this film, The Ultimate History Lesson with John Taylor Gatto, affect you guys?
Man, it showed me it proved or further emphasized how much you've been lied to in school, and where the history of schooling, our idea of westernized schooling came from, and it was overwhelming. I had to take breaks from it because it was so much information. But also, it's the same thing. It's the same sort of like painful liberation. Yeah. As I'm receiving the information, it was sort of hard to take in, and part of me wants to fight it, doesn't want to accept it. But then, by the end of it, I'm totally liberated and if you freed, right, as a result.
And if you can get to a point beyond that where you're laughing about it, then you've won and you've succeeded in every way possible. It's like a great quote that Benny found.
Oh, right. I found this quote the other day that I think we're going to start putting it on our cards that we hand out. It's, "For a happy life is joy in the truth." We like it. I think it's very succinct and very accurate.
Yeah, it sort of tells you that we're here to seek the truth, and we are happiest when we're joyful and we're laughing. And if you can combine the both of those, it becomes a very powerful thing.
And and again, watching the John Taylor Gatto interview, it was so frustrating because it's also so obvious as you're learning it. It's like everything he says is so obvious. Like that's always the way I feel when things happen. The truth is so obvious. I don't know how people can't see it more clearly. And it's so obvious that the schooling system has been it's been designed and tailored to be this way, so that it keeps people from wanting to be enlightened, and it just stifles that urge to know about themselves and about life and the world around them, and teaches them within a very rigid, restrained box.
Yeah, and it helps that he's also very charming, and that he's telling you this through all this years of going through it himself and having learned it, and the wisdom that he has. And I've had a few teachers in my life that I'll remember forever, even amidst the public schooling systems, that they stick out because they taught the way that he taught, which was sort of leading by example and teaching through experience, where he's almost just telling you stories and recollecting of his life, and you could see how powerful that is to obtain the truth that he's really laying out there for you.
He said, my uncle or my grandfather explained to me that the way you train fleas, he hit a soft part in me because I used to go to Hubert's Flea Circus on 42nd Street and watch fleas draw Roman chariots and swing on trapezes. He said, you've got to break their spirits. If you put fleas in a container, they'll instantly leap off and head off in all directions because they have flea agendas. And even they don't all off in the same direction. They have individual agendas. So he says, you gotta break that autonomy in the flea first. And the way you do that is you put them in a container, small, with a lid on. And the fleas keep attempting to follow their own agenda, and they strike themselves over and over again. And if you come back in an hour or so, they're all huddled in a mass together. Now when you take the lid off, they don't even try to escape. Now, he said, you can impose your will on the flea. The minute the 11-year-old kid said that to me, I knew that I had been hired as the lid on the container. Not that I hadn't sabotaged it somewhat, but nevertheless, that's what we all had been hired to do. And this principle was understood. Training fleas was a delight of emperors thousands of years ago. And whoever trained those fleas understood the principle and saw that it could be applied as it is in military training to human beings, as it is in much religious training. Not all, but much.
So you've got a character like Wundt who believes that children have no soul, and he's designing an education system.
So, yeah, it was painful to learn things and sort of mind-blowing to learn certain things, and it's something I'm going to have to revisit probably over and over again, but it's important. It's an important piece of work that you guys put together and did and captured that. And hopefully a lot more people will see it.
Well, I think the fact that we all made it through the public schooling system and we still have our creativity, we have our curiosity back, we're asking questions. We don't assume that we know everything because we were taught through a bunch of declarative sentences. You know, knowledge is found through asking questions and finding substantial and valid answers. And if you think you know stuff and you haven't asked, you know, at least the 5 W's plus how, then you don't have knowledge, you have counterfeit knowledge. And I think that's something that's pervading this country. And people, they say they want truth, but you know, they don't really support the whistleblowers. They don't demand integrity from their outlets of TV. Any of those, you know, the Boston bombing, the Aurora shooting, the media is guilty of starting every conspiracy theory out there because they report contradictory information that has not been validated. If there's somebody that should be prosecuted, because I remember at Sandy Hook, you know, the state cop from you know, Connecticut here, he's saying that, you know, anyone who spreads false rumors will be prosecuted. Great. I got a list of mainstream media conglomerates that are all Bilderberg, Council on Foreign Relations, and Trilaterals that all put out contradictory information. And so when they prevent us from you know, seeing these scenes and they control the reporting and they control the evidence and they control the trial. I mean, what can you really find out about that event except that it's psychological warfare, and you should really just recognize it as that, move on, and try to do something creative to stop it. So in this search to exit the rabbit hole, I've got a couple closing questions here. I also wanted to remark, when you guys were talking about, you know, how the truth is beautiful, the words of Keats, who said, beauty is truth, truth is beauty, if I recall correctly. So it's this idea that beauty should be truthful and truth should be beautiful, but we live in a culture where it's kind of ugly and no one wants to hear about it, and they would rather hear some professionally fictionalized event of how Osama bin Laden went down than read the actual history, which is, it changes day by day. Yesterday they said, there was a report in a UK Mail that said Osama bin Laden blew himself up as SEAL team members approached, and that he had been wearing a suicide belt for the past 10 years. Now that account, the account of his death has changed in the media. This isn't my ideas. I don't have any interest except I look at what's being put out there, right? So It's just like mind-blowing how this story continues to adapt and no one calls out the contradictions.
Well, according to Zero Dark 30, all they did was shoot Osama bin Laden once in the head and once in the chest. So if the photos of his dead body are so gruesome, well, how did they get gruesome from 2 shots, 2 bullets? I don't understand.
Well, I think that's also part of the psychological warfare, because at any of these events, you need to look at the photographic evidence of the scene before you can formulate an opinion, let alone have some knowledge. And when you practice forensic epistemology, i.e. metaphysically the evidence exists, and the epistemology is what can we know from this evidence, from this picture, from this video, right? The Boston bombing suspects were never tied to the packages that were left. When you look at the shrapnel, it doesn't match their backpacks, and so there's all these things that are out there that should be clarified by law enforcement or investigative agencies, and they're not. So that really forces us to change our habits and not spend our time watching football or NASCAR or any of these things, reprioritize our time and start doing constructive actions with our habitual time, because that's how they control us, through our habits, right? There's this great William James quote where he says, habit is the enormous flywheel of society, and he basically goes on to say it's what keeps the people doing crappy jobs in their place and prevents the children of the elite, the children of fortune, from the envious uprisings of the poor. And in that one quote, what you're really getting to when you understand what he's saying is, look, everything's here in your society for a purpose and a reason, and it's playing its role. And when you get to the point where you start to notice, you think, wow, society's really messed up, it's broken. No, you just need to understand the mentality of the rancher or the ranchers that are controlling this global farm, and they're basically farming human resources, sucking out our energy, violating our rights, and it's only through having these conversations internally. Gatto talks about the internal dialectic of, I argue with myself all the time and write it out and this sort of thing, and that really gets you thinking about, we should be almost writing scripts in our head where we have two characters and they're going back and forth, and that's a process, to find truth. And so I just see a lot of similarity in the process that people actually need to go through and the process that you guys actually go through to make your art. And, just let the individual watching this on the other side of the screen, that we were all on the other side of the screen at one point, and then we took it upon ourselves to make what we want to see in reality happen. So, do you guys have any comment to that?
It was a painful awakening. I mean, it wasn't easy to wake up. But that's another argument I have against people when they try to fight me about being a conspiracy theorist. I think, you think I like being this way? You think I like thinking that everyone, the government is out to get us and that they're not on our side and we're being messed with around every corner? Do you think I like feeling that, or like thinking that these attacks are actually false flag and coming from within the country boundaries? And do you think I enjoy this?
Yes.
And I do. No, but it's a painful awakening. But my response to that is, what's more painful? Going through the process of awakening yourself, or a lifetime of being lied to, and a lifetime of agony, a lifetime of suppression and oppression. So yeah, it does hurt, but it also sets you free.
And also, I think we could both attest to the fact that because we went to school together and started watching, all the 9/11 documentaries, and that was really the beginning of it all for us. We had the opportunity to be able to do it together. And so if you can find someone that is on the same wavelength as you, it makes the whole ride a lot less scary, because you have someone to let out all that internal dialogue that you just mentioned that you've been building up to, and you can share it and pass it along. I reeled my brother in when he was young and didn't give him much of a choice. And with a few of our friends, I think we've done the same. And we always find, because
a lot of people,
we meet people here in the city in Los Angeles who they reach out to us because they see our videos and they say, hey, I live in the city. I'd love to hang out with you guys because I don't have many people that I can talk to about this stuff. And that's becoming a theme that we're seeing a lot. And every time these people come over and spend time with us, we find that it's like they had this gigantic ball of stuff built inside of them, and they finally got a couple of guys who get what they're saying, so they just let it all out. And you almost can't get a word in edgewise, but you can see that it's healthy for them to be doing what they're doing. And that's a common case that we come across out here, is people really having a desire to connect with people that are on this wavelength and do want to figure this out, because they know that this world is completely upside down and backwards. And they want to change it and fix it, and they want to do it so that there's future for this world, So having someone with you, or having people with you, is very helpful in it. And you just gotta stick with it. And if you do, I think it's just guaranteed by the laws of the universe that your life will improve, because you will see the prison bars that you're standing behind every single day of your life. And when you learn the truth, you might be able to access the key to open up that door. So there you have it.
Well, what you're talking about are the denied rites of passage to become an adult individual that is responsible for your own actions. You're thinking between the stimulus and response. You're expressing your freedom. And these are all things that, as an individual you need to do, but it's also good to have a study partner or a study group or, some other people that have similar interests in finding fresh food and clean water and fresh air and all the things that we have in common, right? So it should be easy to find people to talk about this, but they've all been indoctrinated through 15,000 hours of schooling, through the media, that they're not supposed to talk to you. They're supposed to have a friend on the screen, like in Fahrenheit 451 or 1984, you got your telescreen going on, and that's people's friend, and their TV is their friend, or their smartphone's their friend. So it's like, when we bring it all back to look at things how they are, the world is upside down, but we can be conscious of that, and we can communicate, hey, we see these things that are going on that don't make a whole lot of sense. And when you question why they're going on, there's not very good reasons. In fact, it's a vacuum. It's an absence of reasons, that this is going on. I think Goya said, when reason sleeps, or the sleep of reason produces monsters, right? So it's this idea that when people aren't thinking and when consciousness isn't present, that's like hell on earth. You will see people at their worst, the lowest common denominator, animal mentality, truth and justice are what strong people say it is, except now you see that here. And now in our culture, that truth and justice are what strong people say it is. So the president can make a speech on drones one day, and the next day or a couple days later, use the drones, and they've got autonomous drones. I mean, there's a whole lot of things going on that were predicted through 1984, through Brave New World, the cybernetic culture of controlling human resources. So at the end of the day, these are my closing questions. What problem are we trying to solve?
Detachment from the cyclical nature of life.
Yeah, I think, I feel like the big problem is that if we don't do something about it, nobody will. And if nobody does, it kind of feels like there's not a great future for this planet that we're all so lucky to live on. So it is back to what we said earlier, that sense of urgency. And I feel like with the generation after us, you mentioned the smartphones, the distractions, the things they're being taught in schools or conditioned in schools. You don't want to say it's a lost generation because there's a lot of hope still out there, I think, but we really got to step up and do something. It really is urgent, I feel. I feel like if you not only want to liberate and free yourself, but if you want to allow children and grandchildren of your own to do the same, then you got to get moving. You got to wake up. And it's easy for all of us to say that, and it's hard to have someone in the room with us that is choosing not to. So you will find people, though. You will find the people out there. You do every day, and I think more and more every day people are waking up and are educating themselves and are liberating themselves. And it does, for me, feel like a race to the finish. Who's going to get there first? The predators that are conditioning and controlling our society, or us? Which is it going to be? And that's why that sense of urgency keeps coming back.
I'm trying to think. What was it? Say the question again. Ask the question again.
What problem are we trying to solve?
That's exactly okay. The problem of slavery by consent. I'll leave it there.
That's good. That's good. What variable is in terms of speaking, holding you guys back? In other words, what problem, if solved by someone seeing this video, would just expand your work everywhere and it would solve all the problems in your life, or at least let your production take on its natural evolution of progression and improvement and whatnot?
So I think that the one thing that would really help us is the opportunity to focus on this more. Yeah. And luckily, I've been lucky enough in the past year to utilize JoyCamp towards making me money. Like I've had a nice run here as an actor in LA, but I'd rather not be a pawn for the system for too much longer. Like, it's really nice to get paid to be an actor, but I'd rather be getting paid, if I have to get paid, to spread the truth, to make these videos. So what's holding me back is having to live a double life. I'm living on one hand, I'm me, an actor in LA who is making money and trying to be a working actor as a job, because that's when we have to have jobs, right, to have income. And the other half of my life is a truth seeker, someone who is asking questions and trying to understand reality and trying to understand myself, and being able to have more time to invest in JoyCamp as my number one project.
Yeah, and probably the rest of the guys in the group would say the same answer, I think. And I feel like most people out there that are into this are in that exact same predicament where they understand the system they live in, but in order to survive in that system, they have to play by some of the rules. And hopefully we'll get to a point where that won't have to be true anymore. But we're all in that situation. We do everything on our own time and our own dime. So if we could be able to do it full time, all the time, and be able to sustain our livelihood, then we would be golden, I think.
Yeah, and I love acting. I love creating. I'm an artist, and I would love to be able to make that my full-time job.
And we're working on it.
Activist artist.
We're working hard on it.
I used to own a website called artistactivists.org because my idea, several years ago was to find all the artists who were stepping away from corporate type of media and that, we're doing some sort of activism, and to, provide common resources, that we all were struggling to get at the time, which was, live streaming and a bunch of other technical things that we can use to connect with the audience. I also wanted to talk about Benny's answer, slavery by consent. I wanted to offer a historical reference just so we have another history reference in this show. The book is by a Frenchman who wrote about the same time as Machiavelli. So you got Machiavelli advising the state, and you have this Frenchman named Etienne de la Boétie who wrote a book it's called a treatise on voluntary servitude, I think. But the idea is that voluntary servitude is the key to the monarchs, the nations that are doing all these crazy things with our taxes. It's the key to their power, is that people have a chance to resist in their mind and in their actions, but they don't, because we've been indoctrinated to find other things valuable, to get our self-esteem from things we buy at the store and not things we learn in our head, and experience and knowledge and useful abilities to survive that should be part of every human being's education. But for various reasons, they don't want to, they teach us how to read, but they don't teach us how to think. And that should really tell us something about the culture that we've all been born into. So in an effort to help you guys get to that next step, I want you to describe for the audience, what are the changes that'll happen? Assuming you guys reach this next step, how can the world be changed? How do you envision that change taking place over the next 10 years? What does the world look like in 10 years from now, assuming you guys get everything you need to do your thing?
Power to the people.
Hell yeah.
In 10 years from now, gosh. Well, trying to answer a question like that is, there is no easy solution to the problem we're in. There's no easy transition. There's no way we can just leave this system behind and start a new system, especially within 10 years. So what we can hope for is first getting people to acknowledge these issues and pay attention to them, and to not be afraid of them, to make them more accessible, to make them more lighthearted, even though they're not lighthearted, but to make them to show people that they can be dealt with in a lighter manner, and then to allow them to realize their own potential themselves, right, and see, and to encourage them to and prompt them to seek it out on their own, and to find that inner strength and that inner power, and then to realize that we are the majority on this planet. We are the inheritors of this earth, and there's a handful of people that are running the show, and to expose them and get them out of there. So maybe not JoyCamp alone can do that, but our combined efforts, we can certainly do that. It's not that I don't think it's that unrealistic to think that that's possible. Especially in the next, that could be accomplished in the next 10 years.
Right, and we're not saying to have 10,000 YouTube comedy channels as a result of this.
Use your own unique approach.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully, for us, it was a light bulb. It was like, hey, we make these sometimes funny videos, and hey, we also really like learning about the truth and things. So, bing. Hopefully, people will find that, because once you can learn about it and do something active and something creative about it, then you're just winning and winning and winning. Because creativity is something that I feel like our predators fear. And when you're able to spin what they're doing on them in a creative way, whether that's hosting a radio show or making documentary films or writing songs or whatever it is that you're doing, hopefully what we're doing, people can say, hey, those are just regular guys that are in the same situation we are, and they're taking a skill that they have and they're applying themselves. Let's do the same. I just need to find a few other people to help me along the way. And you can do it. And in fact, you need to do it. So hopefully in 10 years from now, we'll see a lot more of things like what we're doing in conjunction with what things like you're doing, which is really bringing across information. Because without people like you and Jan and Gnostic Media, Tragedy and Hope, and all the other places we go for information, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. So it becomes, that's probably one of the other biggest things I've learned, next to how powerful humor is in truth, is somebody wrote a comment on the interview we did with Jan Irvin, and he said it's so, because, Gnostic Media is so very serious and JoyCamp is so very not. And he said it was very cool to see these two different things that are ultimately getting the same message out there come together and collaborate, even just having a discussion around a kitchen table, even doing what we're doing now. And I hope that we can spawn more of that too. I hope that we start seeing more of the message that's being put out by a lot of people, because you can go down any avenue. You can go down any rabbit hole, anything that you want to research. There are going to be 1,000 people out there that have dedicated their lives to researching that subject.
And we're lucky.
And
we're lucky just one.
Yeah, maybe so. But you find that person and you sift to the person that can back up everything that they're saying, can cite everything that they're doing, and that that they're giving you real information. And it can become this very collaborative thing. So I think that beyond inspiring people to do what they're doing, I hope that we can all connect in some form or another. And that will hopefully start figuring itself out over time, as long as we're proactive and keep doing this. So hopefully 10 years from now, we'll see that. I'm not saying we're going to topple the system in 10 years from now, but man, I sure want to take a chunk out of it, don't you?
Yeah, of course I do. I think that
I really want,
and it's reasonable. I think that's another thing. I mean, people should start understanding that it is possible to live in a different system, that we can exist in a different system. I think that's one thing that people are reluctant to acknowledge. They don't think that they are so conditioned by the system. They can't imagine themselves living in any other kind of system. And I think that getting them to understand that it could be different, it could be better, is the key.
Yeah. True that.
Just like the old days, 40,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, you've got Monsanto out there creating these GMO, whatever, frankenfoods that are cross-pollinating and poisoning all the plants on the planet. I think if we're going to do some sort of equal and opposite reaction, we have to use media and cross-pollinate the audience with factual information, with integrity, along with a couple laughs along the way about something of substance that is relevant to their lives, and show them kind of how it could be, if things weren't like this. What if every little kid in the world knew that McDonald's was made out of this pink slime at the McNuggets and it's not chicken? Wouldn't that be a wonderful world 10 years from now, when McDonald's is starved out of existence because they stopped providing food a long time ago, right? So it's this idea of, like in Ghostbusters, where at a certain point they're like, we got to cross these streams in order to address this problem, because it affects all of us adversely, and none of us can fight it alone effectively, let alone do all the work or the digging or the production or any of the sort of stuff. So I think it's just more about honing our talent, becoming self-reliant, self-confident individuals who have real self-esteem that's not based on something that you buy at the store, park in your driveway, et cetera, et cetera. And it's getting back to this convection current of causality that starts with creativity and imagination and all the things that public schooling wanted to shut off and decapitate from your being. They don't want you to be curious or to ask questions, because it's the question mark, I think, that liberates the mind. And going in that direction, I guess my last question for you guys would be, was there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about that I didn't ask about?
Oh.
I do have a great quote that I did want to read because it's Manly P. Hall, and this is something that's very true to all of us here. And he said that there can be no, this was in a book, I believe it's called The 10 Basic Rules to Better Living or something like that, Rule 6 or 7. And he said that there can be no good philosophy of life without humor, and there can be no real humor without a good philosophy of life. So I'll just leave it there. I'll leave it to you.
I don't have anything. I didn't have anything. I want to subscribe to JoyCamp. www.youtube.com/theJoyCamp. There is a "the" there, unfortunately, but it's there. The JoyCamp. Subscribe. Spread the word. Like us on Facebook. I guess you could follow us on Twitter. We don't really keep up with Twitter that much. And you can email us at thejoycamp@gmail.com. And friend us on Facebook, too. Benny Wills, Kevin Kostelnik, Michael Kostelnik. Don't friend him. Michael says no. He's out.
Yeah, he's done. He's out. We just fired him.
So yeah, I guess that's all I got.
And with all that being said, you can find JoyCamp on an internet near you. Subscribe to get their latest creations. And remember, it's good to have a few laughs as we go through our days, learning in the light direction. In the meanwhile, be sure to check out tragedyandhope.com, subscribe to our podcast, The Peace Revolution, fly with us on Twitter to get your daily news updates and the latest publications and interviews. And if you've got the resources available to help us continue producing informative and innovative modes of media with integrity, your help enables us to keep producing content that provokes thoughts and inspires answers. Until next time, thank you for tuning in and not dropping out.
Oil and slave labor. These two wonderful industries make modern life a breeze. And what this fine little filly doesn't realize is that her chic accessories and stunning appearance come from oil and slave labor.
Huh?
That's right, classy lassie. Everything from your thong to your nail polish, your smartphone to your eyelashes come from oil and slave labor. Your top from Uzbekistan. Shorts from China. Jewelry from Indonesia. And your iPhone from Taiwan.
Oh no, not my iPhone!
Steve Jobs may have been a genius, but he couldn't work like a 5-year-old Asian boy can. Even your brawn panties from Bangladesh. Whoa there! Looks like science can go no further. Except for these silicone beauties from DuPont.
Hey.
Oil and slave labor, making the Western world beautiful.
JoyCamp, JoyCamp. Everybody loves the JoyCamp. It's not TV or conspiracy. It's just old-fashioned comedy. It's JoyCamp. JoyCamp.
isn't right. These people are filthy rich, racist, tyrannical mother, and you're giving them your money. I found this.
It's not mine.
How did you get this?
It's not my movie!
How many times have you seen this?
One,
What is there to like about these people?
that she's a princess. All I like is that they're princesses.
Kate, is a princess.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what Princess Kate's last name is?
Middleton.
Correct. Do you know what William's last name is?
Prince. Remember.
Exactly. They don't want you to know. He's actually German. They're from a German bloodline. His last name is actually Battenberg. And they all marry each other. They're all cousins. Do you want to marry your cousin?
No.
Exactly.
But I don't even know if I have one.
These people are inbred.
Inbred.
They marry each other.
They're all married to each other? Even girls are married to girls and boys are married to boys?
It's not quite like that. But brothers do marry sisters and cousins marry cousins.
What do they do with their kids, though?
Well, some go on to be royalty, and the rest are retarded because they're inbred. Let me ask you a question. If you had more money than you could possibly dream of, more money than you could ever spend in your lifetime.
I have a lot of money already.
You have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
My piggy jar is almost half done.
if your piggy jar was overflowing with money, wouldn't you want to give some of that away and help people who are starving?
I would give it to my mom and dad.
Exactly, right? Because that's the kind of person you are.
Some people are mean to me.
And what do you do when they're mean to you?
Make them stop, but they won't.
How does it make you feel?
I just told the teacher because they're being mean to me, and somebody called me mean one time.
And were you being mean?
No.
Yeah, of course not, right? You would never be mean to anybody. These people are mean. They have all the money in the world and they don't help anybody.
Except their kids, if they're not dumb.
They're kids if they're not retarded. They only help the kids that don't seem retarded when they're born. The ones that are retarded, they cast away. Do you know what a groom is?
Is a man that you marry?
Do you know what a stool is?
What I stand on when I brush my teeth?
Right. Do you know what a groom of the stool is? A groom of the stool is a person who wipes royal asses for a living.
Ew.
That's right. Princess Diana's father was a groom of the stool. Google it.
Listen when I blow out.
Yeah, you're a really good whistler. Did you know that at one time Britain contained several small kingdoms that were ruled over by an intermarried, self-elected elite that gradually amalgamated into the single monarchy which rules over Wales, Scotland, North Ireland, England, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and secretly controls the United States of America? What is she doing here?
This is my movie.
That's yours?
Don't judge my movie. It's mine. This is mine. I told you.
You are so right. I am such a schmuck. I should have believed you. What can I do? Here, have some more tea.
I'm out of here.
Man, I haven't seen a single one. How about you, Kevin?
I haven't seen a doggone thing all day, Nick. And you know what? I'm not that happy about it either.
Oh, got one. MQ-1 Predator coming in hot. 33 degrees northwest, altitude 1984.
Oh, yeah. She's pretty.
God, Benny, you're always able to find the most beautiful drones. How do you do it?
Well, Nick, there's a secret to my success. The new drone spotting app from SIA. It can find even the most rare and exotic drones, like
Switchblade, Dragonfly, Liberty Bell, RQ-7 Shadow, Hummingbird, Freedom Hunter, Dark Star, Sand Trigger, Stalker, Pegasus, Seeker, Columbus Micro, P-666, Magic Bullet, Prom Night, Anwar al-Awlaki, Kissinger of Death, Al-Qaeda Sniffer, Snow Goose, Pocket Rocket, X-56, Barack Obama, No Mercy, Bushwhacker, Headhunter, Old Glory, Widowmaker 3, Flying Zion, All-Seeing Spy, Boom, Air Force One, Osama bin Laden, Whale, Phantom Sentinel, Hillary Clinton, and many more.
Freedom Hunter, 9 o'clock.
Looks like it's coming right at us.
Oh, I knew we shouldn't have gone drone spotting in Yemen.
The Drone Spotting app, available on both Android and iPhone.
State police pulled me over going to work, and it's a standard deal now. Are you drinking? And it's 9 in the morning. Where are you going? It's like, come on, man, give me your fake ticket. Police are going to have to decide which side of the line they're on.
You gotta be kidding me.
As the corruption gets more and more out in the open, and how every time the police pull you over, they're breaking laws.
All right.
Sir, I'm going to need you to roll your window down.
No, it's down.
Sir, I'm going to need you to actually roll your window down.
It's down. It's open. I complied with you.
Okay, I get it. What, you're the youngest son? The troublemaker? Have you had anything to drink, sir? You giving me the silent treatment. Sarge, we got another one. Yeah, the Helen Keller type, yep. Listen, I can make this light more flashy. Look at that. Look what I'm doing. Does that intimidate you, sir? I'm going to make it go real wide. Sir?
Name and personnel number?
My name is Officer Panetta, and my badge number is P1984. Now, are we done with this interrogation of me? Have you had anything to drink? It's a yes or no question.
I decline to answer any questions, officer.
Sir. Have you had anything to drink tonight, sir?
I opt to remain silent.
You just said something, sir, so you're not opting to remain silent. You're just being... Sir? Sarge! Sir, I have a short temper and a long flashlight, and I can... Sarge!
Officer Panetta.
Sarge, I'm gonna lose it!
Am I being detained, Officer Panetta?
You're not... Have you had any... Sarge! Listen.
All right. How's it going
Sarge,
today? Good evening, sir. We're just simply asking everyone, have they had anything to drink tonight? Okay. All right.
Name and personnel number?
I'm Officer Sanchez.
That's with an S.
P1776. Now we're just...
Thank you, Officer
We're
Sanchez.
not detaining anybody here. We're not holding up anybody. Okay, we're just... simply asking a couple questions, all right?
I decline to answer any questions.
Sir, you're being very hard to deal with. If you were my son, I'd take you in the backyard and I'd smack you. I stopped a pregnant woman this morning. She gave birth to twins in the back seat.
I understand.
She wasn't drinking. That's legal for me to do as a father. Sir, don't close this window. Don't you close this window.
It's open.
I'm
It's still
take
open.
Your allowance away, sir.
It's still open.
Sir,
it's
we
open.
understand you're exercising your rights. Just
Thank you.
Answer for us very quickly. Just, have you been drinking tonight?
Have you been drinking, sir?
I decline to answer any questions, officers.
Have you had anything to drink tonight?
I understand.
Have you had water, soda,
I got
anything?
I understand.
I could easily end this guy. Like I could shoot him, and I could.
I still got my sniper training, so.
And I think I can get him in those two. I don't have a. You're gonna post that on the YouTube.
Yeah, you got a wiki account.
Listen, am I free to go?
Yeah. No. Well, no.
Am I being detained?
You're not being detained.
If I'm not being detained, officer, am I free to go?
You're free to. You're free to go. You're free
Oh,
to go.
I'm free to go? Thank
Free
you
to go.
so much, officers.
Have a good night, sir.
But you better watch your little back, because I'm coming for you. Hey, so you are
right,
free to
keep it
go.
going. Come on. All right. It's
You know I don't know this stuff. You made me
Flip
look
it.
like an idiot out there when you should have been there. What were you doing? You were in the back just playing solitaire? I'm out there looking like an idiot. God,
I
I
had it
hate
up
that
to
guy.
here with these sovereign citizens, these
Those-
conspiracy
Those
theorists.
Freemans.
Yeah.
They got these donuts that are actually wrapped in bacon.
Donuts wrapped in bacon.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay, but you're driving.
I can't. I'm drunk.
You've been.
I've been drinking.
To think something so small could control you.
And everything you do.
When your life and all you love
Are on the line.
The RFID chip is always with you, threatening your privacy, causing severe risk to your health and personal safety, and killing you if you do not obey rogue government demands.
Because I want to increase my risk of cancer.
Because I want to live in a cash-free society.
Because now the government is looking out for us.
Because I have the mark of the beast, but it doesn't have me.
Ask your doctor how to get your chip implanted today.
Because we want to track your every move.
That's a good one, a baby. Oh, what the?
I'm
Ow!
so sorry.
What are you, a moron?
No,
You're an idiot?
I think
You're a
No, look,
moron.
it's fine.
What are you, high? Are
It's
you
all
high
right.
on
No, it's
drugs?
all right. It's
What
all
are
right.
you
It's fine.
doing?
It's not damaged at all. It's not damaged. It's working perfectly. It's good.
Wait, you didn't see me?
I
You didn't see
I don't
me
know
on
what
the
happened.
trail?
I was distracted.
You were distracted because you're smoking the reefer. Listen.
Look, okay.
My phone is scuffed.
It's not scuffed.
I just had it
The phone
polished.
is fine.
I just had it
Sorry I
polished.
ran into you, but I don't think there's any scuff on there.
It's scuffed.
It's just a little scratched. I think the phone itself, though, is fine, as you'll see.
If you could just stop touching my personal property. You scuffed
Listen,
the phone.
I'm sorry I bumped into you. I'm sorry your iPhone is scuffed.
Why don't you go back
Can you
and work
forgive
at
me?
the
Can
Dairy
you find
Queen?
it in your heart to forgive me? Can
No,
you please
I
forgive
can't.
me? I beg your
I
forgiveness.
don't know.
I'm begging you. I'm on my knees
Okay.
begging you for your forgiveness. Will you please forgive me for
Okay.
scuffing your iPhone?
You're being weird. Okay, get off your knees. Weird. This guy's being a weirdo. Up on the feed. I
it's
get it.
so terrible what has happened to you.
Nothing's happened to me.
Thousands of children are dying from starvation every day. Innocent people are being massacred in the name of freedom, and then our soldiers are coming home to kill themselves. But then there's you who have suffered such an atrocity. I scuffed your iPhone.
Okay. It's a Samsung Galaxy, but
Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you stopped to thank a tree for the oxygen it gives you, or the sun for its warmth? When was the last time you looked up at the stars? At the infinite, celestial wonder above us and all around us? Do you even look up? Do you look up?
it's been a while since I've looked up.
Your life is beautiful.
Stop.
You're well fed.
Yes.
You have a roof over your head.
A few.
Clothes on your back.
Yeah, pretty penny.
There's just one problem.
What?
Your toy. Your shiny new machine has been scuffed. Oh, it's terrible. A tragedy, a misfortune.
Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm sorry I ran into you.
It's okay. Isn't that you?
What? Huh?
The drone spotting app, now with precision targeting.
By sea.